Welcome to the Books Between Friends podcast.
3 lifelong friends,
one shared obsession.
Books.
From epic fantasy to page-turning thrillers.
We dive into the stories we love
And the ones we just can't stop talking about.
So take a seat,
Grab a drink,
and get cozy.
Hey book friends, welcome back. Speaking of cozy, what is keeping you cozy these days? So here's what's keeping me cozy: health. So for those that don't live in Texas, whenever we get just like a hint of ice on the streets, everything shuts down, literally everything, because we just don't have the infrastructure to handle it. And, you know, give us a tornado, we're in school, we're at work all day long. But no, when it's ice, nope. Call it a day, call it a week, because we had
literally
the whole week off at school. So that was nice, except I was sick through the whole week. Ugh, the worst.
Yes.
And so I couldn't enjoy it really. Like, I got to enjoy some of the snow when the snow was falling, but then the rest of the time I was sick. So keeping me cozy, health, you know. Not having to clutch at my throat whenever I like swallow a drink or something.
No.
So what's been keeping you all cozy? Yes, me too.
Yeah. Were you ever diagnosed with anything or just a cold?
Yeah.
No, just they're like all of the
Just
stuff
virus.
came back. Yeah.
Whatever's going around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the mega flu or whatever was going around for a little bit.
Yeah. It was not a good time. I don't recommend.
Thank you. We'll be on the lookout to make sure we don't get what you had.
Yeah. Hot tip.
I guess.
Jen, what's keeping you cozy?
So for me, you know, I'm not going to lie, you guys. I have not been feeling cozy these past few days. I am really struggling with my mental health right now because I'm feeling so much anxiety with it being the start of February. At the end, like, what was it, Saturday night? It was 1 a.m. and I was up fixing my calendar. So I was like, I have to get my calendar ready for February, y'all. Like, you know, February starts on Sunday and, you know, this is the last month before I have to defend in March. And so my anxiety is at its peak. And no matter what I do, I have not been able to like find something to help me, I guess, like come off of that. Like, I've done all the things. Like, I've tried to read all my favorite books. I've tried to jump on the treadmill. I've tried to talk about it. I've tried to even like write about it. I even sleep with like one of those white noise machines, and I cannot seem to get off of this anxiety ledge that I'm sitting on right now. So I'm trying all the things to be cozy. Hopefully, you know, the more I accomplish in this month, the better I'll feel. But I don't have anything to share with you guys today. Yeah.
And you watch Bake Off again.
You know
it's
what?
so cozy.
I will finally take you. I'll finally take you up on that. Yeah, I'll watch it.
A good show always helps.
You should.
It's
on Netflix. Start it.
Okay. For sure.
Just start it. Well, similar to you, Ethan, I didn't have a full week, but I had 4 days of working from home last week due to the winter blast, I think is what they were calling it. And yeah, I'm a homebody, as I've said so many times on this podcast already, and as you guys know, so I was thriving. I was living my best life, enjoying every second of it, and devastated to have to go back to the office on Friday.
Oh my gosh, for one day.
Yeah, one day.
I only had 2 days off last week. So I just had Monday and Tuesday because in Austin, everything like melted by Tuesday when we were back in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are just a little bit further south than us. So didn't get as much snow and ice.
There's still ice in some parts of like my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Like we still have ice. So it's interesting to see it like slowly melt over time.
It's definitely all gone here. It was like gone by Thursday, I think.
Okay.
Baxter's happy though. He hates the cold, so he like thrives in the sun. Like today, he would not. It felt really nice outside today, so like he did not want to come inside from being out there. He was just laying out. He was laying out in the sun, having a good time.
Aww. I believe it.
Yeah.
Soaking up that. All right. Okay. All right, book friends, welcome back to our discussion. This is your lore master for this series, Ethan speaking. We are officially diving in to book 2 of the MISTBORN series by Brandon Sanderson, and this is The Well of Ascension. We covered book 1 last year, and quick fun fact before we go any further, while most people casually call that first book MISTBORN, its actual title is The Final Empire. And so that distinction, it does matter as we're going to start talking about between book 1 and book 2, probably, as I'm sure we will. So the Final Empire, that's book 1. Book 2 is the Well of Ascension. Now, this episode is a little special for us because of that reason, because this is the first sequel we've ever covered for a book we've already discussed on the podcast. So we discussed Onyx Storm, but we really didn't read and discuss Fourth Wing and Iron Flame on the podcast.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we're actually reading something on the podcast, and now we're reading the sequel.
Yay.
So things are going to feel familiar for that, but not exactly the same. So we'll kick things off with our first impressions, just like always when we start a new book. But then we're going to switch gears a little bit. For this one in particular, for this first episode, I'm going to give us a State of the Empire address rather than a State of the Union, because we're going to jump back into Luthadel and see where things stand as of the end of the Final Empire. Give a quick recap, and then after that, we're going to jump into our classic 3-2-1. 3 moments that stuck out to us, 2 impactful character beats, and 1 prediction we're willing to stand by, at least for now. Things may change as we read further. And finally, for this series, I thought it might be fun if we added a little bit of a twist. For this series, each episode is going to end with one of us in the hot seat for the big question, the moment where the book stops letting us sit on the fence and forces us to choose. No overthinking, no future knowledge, no hindsight allowed, just vibes, instincts, and maybe a little chaos will ensue. Expect some hot takes here, possibly regret, but things that we're gonna go down in that final segment we're gonna call the big question. Before heading back to Luthadel, here's Jen for our standard spoiler PSA.
All right, you guys, before we get started, quick spoiler warning. If you are listening to this episode, we're assuming you've read the first 12 chapters of the Well of Ascension. There's going to be some major spoilers throughout our discussion today. So if you haven't had a chance to read the 12 chapters, please be sure to go and finish them and then come join us for the discussion. And as always, if you've been loving our book chats, we would really, really appreciate it if you could leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more book lovers find us. We want to keep our community growing. Well, we want to make more book friends. You know, I've been really enjoying chatting with different people on our social medias. Like, I love seeing people's insight. I love seeing people's thoughts. You know, recently we were talking to someone who didn't like Brandon Sanderson, and that was an interesting conversation. So, you know, we want to hear more from you guys. So give us a quick review, and we would love to give you a shout out on our next episode.
Yay. Yes, please. Yay. All right, let's kick things off, y'all. Let's get into our first impressions of the Well of Ascension. I'll get us started here. We know me by now. I love a fantasy story with dragons and with political unrest or political intrigue. This story does not have dragons. They are not here. But it does have a lot of, It does have a lot of political intrigue that we're getting. A lot. Yeah. And so I'm quite interested to see what will take place with Elend. This is a very different kind of battle that we're seeing. It's no longer rebellion, so it's evolved into actually shaping the empire with the ruins that were left after the Final Empire ends in book 1. I will say that this book might not be for you if political machinations are not your speed, just because I feel like that's what we're going to get a lot of in this book, because we are literally having to build something from ground zero up into something new. So I think there's going to be a lot about that. But that's Elend's side of things. On Vim's side of things, loving it, absolutely loving it. She is living her best MISTBORN life by leveling up as much as she can, and she does that, I feel like, almost instantly in this first section. I'm loving reading about her coming into her own out of Kelsier's shadow from the first book. So she's really starting to learn on her own, if anything, just because she has to. And so it's really interesting to see. But what about y'all?
Jen, you go first.
Okay. So the way the Final Empire ended, I was definitely left hungering for more of Vin, and I got it. So these first 12 chapters really started off just a tiny bit slow, but the more I read, the more invested I was in Vin and Elend. You know, what they're both facing right now honestly has no words. Like, I was trying to figure out how to describe it, and it really has no words. Like, they're both facing so much in these first 12 chapters, and I'm sure that's just going to get worse, like, as the chapters go on. The emotional struggle Vin is going through, like, makes me feel for her. Like, Vin, I just want to be there for you. Like, come talk to me, girl. I'm loving the messiness of the first 12 chapters. Like, just because you defeated the Lord Ruler doesn't mean you're going to have immediate freedom and happiness. There's so much
Right.
that goes into ruling, rebuilding an empire, ruling its people, and I'm really intrigued to see just how far Elend and Vin are willing to go to make that happen. Already, we're seeing both of them have different perspectives on how to handle certain situations, and that has been really interesting. So can't wait to see more of that. I can't wait to find out more about the freaking mist and learn more about the history of what came like before the final empire. And I'm already sensing some big betrayals coming, especially with the way part 1 ended, y'all. Like in chapter 11, I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the
So,
way you
yeah.
described it though. Like the messiness of these first 12 chapters.
yeah,
That's a great way of describing it. It's messy.
yes.
Right.
Like it is
Yeah.
so messy. Like, yes, you guys did the impossible, but now what?
Mhm.
There's
Right.
so much to do now. Like you that wasn't the hardest part.
Yeah, I think it was even said in this section, like, the hard part is this,
Yeah.
not defeating the
The
final
Lord
empire.
Ruler. Yeah.
So, so I have already finished the series, so I have been really cautious about what I want to say in our discussion here, because not only did I go on to like finish the series after we read the first book, it actually became like one of my god tier books and series. So I'm really anxious to like get into this book with you guys and discuss it and see how y'all feel about it, because I'm so excited to be on this journey with you guys. So I don't really have a first impression because I've already read it, but it's exactly what you guys just said. The political intrigue, the character development that's going to come and is already happening in this section. All of those are reasons why I just love this book and am excited to get back into it.
I'm so ready.
Yay. Me too. I imagine all of these characters that we have from the first book that have made it over to the second book. I imagine them almost like game characters to play. Like they're all waiting to level up in their own certain way. And I'm just devouring it in that sense, because I'm like, ooh, Breeze is doing this over here. Oh, Vin is doing this over here. Elend is doing this over here.
Yeah.
Ooh, how are they all going to work together?
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And it's crazy because this is not the kind of book I would go for. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, what other books have I read that are like high fantasy like this without romance? And really the only thing that came close to it was Game of Thrones. And what's crazy is that I don't think I've ever actually read the book.
What?
I have.
I
have
What?
though. So that comes close to this, except Game of Thrones has a lot of relationships and romance in it. So it's like take all of that out and just talking about the different houses, the different battles, for the throne. And this is kind of similar in that way. But I'm here for the political intrigue. Like I am super excited to see who fucks who over.
And on that cheery note,
right.
we're going to give the State of the Empire address. So this is just a quick recap of where we were when the final Empire, Book 1, ended. So, second point here, Luthadel is free, but, as we've already alluded to, unstable. With the Lord Ruler dead, Luthadel is technically liberated, but freedom comes with consequences. The city is starving, its economy is broken, and the social order has completely collapsed. The Ska are no longer oppressed, but they're also not united, and the nobility no longer has a ruler to fear. Elend Venture attempts to build something new, something fairer, but idealism turns out to be a fragile foundation when people are scared, hungry, and angry. And then the third point here, power vacuums attract threats. And what I mean by that is that the fall of the Lord Ruler doesn't bring peace. It sends up a flare of, hey, it's time to feast, like who wants to take over, right? So neighboring powers, rival noble houses, and ambitious warlords all see the same thing, an undefended throne and a city ripe for the taking. What was once a single terrifying enemy is replaced by many smaller, unpredictable ones. So this is what sets the stage for the Well of Ascension. So we're going to get, I know, right? We're going to get into a summary. Now that was our State of the Empire address. Now we're going to get into the summary of the actual first 12 chapters of the Well of Ascension. The story opens with Luthadel under siege. not from one army, but from the idea of invasion itself. With the Lord Ruler gone, the city is leaderless in the eyes of the world, and threats are gathering just beyond its wall. Elend Venture, now king by circumstance rather than conquest, is trying to rule through laws and councils instead of fear, an experiment that feels dangerously fragile as food shortages, political infighting, and unrest grow inside the city. Vin, meanwhile, is struggling with her new role. Longer just a ska thief or Kelsier's protege, she's a symbol, she's a weapon, a reminder of the Lord Ruler's death. As she patrols the city and trains relentlessly, she becomes increasingly aware that something is off with the mists themselves, which seems to behave strangely around her, blurring the line between protection and threat. A major emotional thread in these chapters is Vin's relationship with OreSeur, the Kandra assigned to her after the death of Kelsier. Vin resents him deeply, not only because he replaces someone she trusted, but because his very existence forces her to confront how little control she actually has. Their tense, uncomfortable partnership highlights Vin's fear of betrayal and her growing isolation. Outside the city, Sazed and Marsh embark on a journey to uncover ancient knowledge that might explain the deeper mysteries left behind by the Lord Ruler. Their search leads them to a long-hidden metal plate discovered at the conventicle of Saran, an artifact that suggests the Lord Ruler may not have been the sole villain history remembers him to be, and that the world may be facing a much older, much darker threat. As rumors of approaching armies spread and Luthadel's political situation deteriorates, a sobering truth begins to emerge. Killing the tyrant was only the beginning. The real challenge now is deciding what kind of world replaces him, and whether it can survive long enough to matter. That takes us to our 3-2-1. 3 things that stuck out to us, 2 character beats of impact, and 1 prediction we have going forward. So, I've been talking quite a bit. I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
Okay, you guys, so much happens in 12 chapters that I had a hard time trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about, especially just the way, MISTBORN the Final Empire ended. Like, there was just so much that followed quickly. Like, it did not lag in the story plot. And so I was just like, great. I'm so glad we're picking up right where we left off, right? So the first thing that really stuck out to me was Vin's new role and her identity crisis that she's having, you guys. Like, she immediately took the role of Elend's bodyguard after he became king, and is endlessly doing perimeter checks, constantly on watch, barely getting any sleep herself. But what really stuck out to me were some of the things that she thought to herself that just like really is showing that she's having a hard time figuring out who she is. So here's just some of the ones that I wanted to share. I'm sure she had plenty, but these were the 3 that really stuck out to me. So in chapter 3, Vin was thinking about the time where she killed, obviously, the Lord Ruler, right? And so she was thinking to herself, Vin had killed him. Of course, the truth wasn't as impressive as the stories. It hadn't been heroic strength or mystical power that had let Vin defeat the Emperor. She merely figured out the trick. She wasn't brave or clever, just lucky. So she doesn't really think very highly of herself here. And then in chapter 5, she was walking in the square, or like in the city, and so she was walking and saw this ball gown in a store window, and she thought, "Is that what I am now?" She wondered. "Am I a noble woman?" It could be argued that she was noble by association, because of her relationship with Elend, the king.
Right.
And then again in chapter 8, this one is the one that I was just like, I can tell she's really struggling. So in chapter 8, she says, there were conflicts within her that she couldn't explain to others. Even Mistings like Ham and Breeze couldn't understand the strange dual life of a MISTBORN. Part assassin, part bodyguard, part noblewoman, part confused, quiet girl. Did this man have similar troubles with his identity? And she's talking about that MISTBORN that's been following her. And so that just really stuck out to me, and it really made me feel for her. Like, she is having such a hard time figuring out where she fits in everything.
Yeah, like again, the character development that we kind of alluded to in our first impressions. This is what I was talking about. And Vin is going through it right now. She, in such a short amount of time, found someone in Kelsier who was a mentor to her, a father figure to her in the end, helped her to like find a piece of herself that she's, really struggling with now because she lost him and she's unsure about, I don't know if you mentioned in here, she's also feeling like something's weird going on with the mist. And
Yeah.
Where before she used to feel like a comfort in the mist because it reminds her of like the times when she and Kelsier would go out into the mist and practice and he would teach her. And so, but now there's just like this weird thing going on with the mist that she's noticing. So even that is being taken away from her. And so, yeah, she's struggling. And this is the kind of character journey that I like to read about in books. So, you know, a lot of times you read about a hero who's just perfect. They know exactly what to do, and that's all well and good. But this type of character journey for me, for a hero, is a lot more relatable.
Yeah.
No matter who you're talking about, everyone questions themselves all the time or like suffers from imposter syndrome, and you can identify with those feelings.
And she
Mm-hmm.
grew a lot in book 1 too. So seeing
Yeah.
her struggle even still is like, wow, that's crazy.
It just
Mhm.
seems, even though we're not dealing with anything realistic here because it's fantasy,
Yeah.
like let's call a spade, but
Yeah.
it's still the way she's gripping with these or fighting with these topics
Emotion.
and things that
Yeah.
are running through her mind.
Yeah.
They're realistic.
Mhm.
If you were in that situation, yeah, that is how I would feel. Like, gosh, you're complete. It's isolated. Like she's isolated.
Yeah.
Even like she's not trying to be. Like it's ironic because she grew up isolated, just because of circumstance, and now she has more connections than ever, and yet she's still isolated. And so it's weird. It's interesting to see. But yeah, I do feel for her. I was like, oh man, that does suck. Like Kelsier was really the only person you can talk to, the Watcher who's out there. Like we see him, we see them. They're a Mistborn, but can't talk to him because they keep on running away from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks.
Also, he could be an enemy. Like, what's going on with that
Yeah,
guy?
that too.
Yeah, so which actually leads me to my second point. So the second thing that really stood out to me was the Watcher. Like, is he friend or foe? Like, who is this guy? Like, this whole interaction has been super interesting to read. Like, it seems like the Watcher, and this is what I think, obviously, it seems like he has been testing Vin in a way. He keeps an eye on
Mhm.
her, he follows her, and then at one point he even helps her and yet doesn't truly approach her until Vin finally catches up to him. And when they finally get to speak, he only asks her basically two things. He says, did she really kill the Lord Ruler? And then the other thing was, why do you play their games? Talking about like obviously what's going on with Elend and Elend's dad and stuff like that. And I'm just like, who is this guy? He's obviously not part of Straff's army. He said he was an enemy, but I don't think that he's part of Straff's army if he's asking why is she playing the game, right? I wonder, and this is going to go into my theory later, but I wonder if he's connected to the history that Sazed is going to uncover, because I know Sazed is probably going to uncover this, and the connections that it has to those little epigraphs now that are in the top of the chapters with the so-called Elendi, the hero of ages. So like, I'll speak more on that piece whenever I get to theory section, but like the Watcher himself, super interesting character. I can see there being an alliance in the future, but we'll see. What y'all think?
Well, Ethan, I want to know what
I
you
don't.
think of this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
don't
think,
know what to
Ethan?
make of the Watcher just yet. Do we know much about his like physical appearance?
She talked about him being like tall.
And
She
like
she kind of
lean.
described she kind of described him a little bit when they finally got to talk to each other. But like there, because at first I thought, is Kelsier alive? Is he alive still? But then I thought,
Oh, yeah.
no, the Condra, is it Condra?
Chandra?
The
Yeah,
Condra ate
Chandra.
he ate him. So I'm like, there's no way he's
Yeah.
alive. Cause like I thought that was my initial thought, especially when she was thinking about like she made that connection of the chase. She was like, the only other person I've ever felt this like chase with has been Kelsier. And I'm like, oh my God, is this him? Like, is he coming back to life? Like, is he really? But I'm like, no, the Kendra ate his bones. Like, there's no way he
Yeah.
would be still alive.
Well, she did
I'm
mention
one.
that there was something familiar about him, right? So that's a good call out, Jen.
Yeah, so I don't know. What do you think, Ethan? Again, I will share my theory later about who I think this guy is.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's an Inquisitor gone rogue because we know that we don't know much about his appearance. Inquisitors tend to
Hmm.
be tall,
Yeah, but the
right?
Inquisitors have those spikes.
But
In
she
her eyes,
hasn't
yeah.
described how his ability is, and
But she did. She saw him. She would have talked about the eyes because they
They
talked to each
sparred.
other. Yeah.
At first, I was wondering if it might be an Inquisitor.
Okay.
Okay.
So it was just interesting because we learned that, Inquisitors have MISTBORN abilities, right? That's what we get with
Basically all the
Marsh, right?
MISTBORN.
Yeah.
It could be an Inquisitor in the middle of transitioning into an Inquisitor, because there was a piece where Sazed was talking about this table he found with all these spikes or whatever. And so he
Yeah.
he even said, he was like, I don't even know how they become what they become. So what if
Right.
this
That's still a
guy got
mystery.
the Mistborn powers but just didn't get the spikes in their eyes like they're supposed to?
Hmm.
So he could be maybe like one that was going through the process and then it never finished.
It's interesting. He's an intriguing character for
He
sure.
is. I'm
Yeah.
actually really liking those chapters, like when I get to see them together,
Yeah. It's interesting to see them interact because of what Vin is going through right now. She's very vulnerable. And so because she also is feeling very isolated and kind of like she can no longer relate to anybody within her inner circle, she's drawn to this guy, the Watcher. And she reminds him of Kelsier and how she had a mentor in Kelsier but no longer
Mhm.
does. And like because he's a Mistborn, she also feels like she can relate to him because he might be able to, relate to what she's going through. So that's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
I remember that thought process too, of like, I wonder if this mysterious guy is also going through the same things I'm going through. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the last quote that I read, and she said, "Did this man have similar troubles with his identity?"
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
It's like, you don't,
I know. I'm telling you, I'm
Yeah.
feeling for Ven. Like, I just want to be there for her. I'm like, come on, girl, let's go talk it
Right.
out. So, the third thing, and Stephanie, you kind of mentioned this a little bit already, is the mist. So, what's going on with the mist? Ven reveals, and I don't know if she had already revealed this at the end of the Final Empire or if this was revealed now, but she reveals that she drew power from the mist, and that's how she was able to defeat the Lord Ruler. So, I had already mentioned this, back when we talked about the Final Empire, but she's more powerful than what Kelsier was. And it's starting to show even more so. She was able to pierce a copper cloud, and no other Mistborn apparently seems to be able to do that. So the fact that she was able to draw power from the mist, like that's also, I think, an ability that not everybody has. So I'm just wondering, what from the mist is she drawing from? Like what's giving her that extra strength or whatever? And then she also mentioned that she saw someone made of mist at some point. So it's like a figure made of mist, and she knew it wasn't the Watcher. I think she tried to follow it because she couldn't even sense their abilities. Like she didn't know it was there. So like that was really interesting too. And there was only like a tiny little mention of it. I was like, oh, this is going to be a big
Mhm.
thing later. And then the
Yeah.
last thing about the mist that was like really was the fact that like now it's getting, I think both Marsh and Sazed mentioned how the mist is starting to come out in the daylight and that it's killing people maybe. So I'm not sure what to think of what's going on here, because even in the beginning, even in book 1, I couldn't figure out what to make of the mist. I'm like, why is it such a big symbolic thing? But now we know it's more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
What do y'all think?
Ethan, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm so confused. This one had me stumped. I was like,
Yes.
huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't,
Same.
unless the only thing I can relate it to is the fact that, and I'll probably talk about it again before our time or this episode is up, but the Lord Ruler at the end of the Final Empire was telling Vin, he's like, you don't know what you just did, or something to that effect, like something worse. If you think I'm bad, like you just messed up by killing
Yeah.
me. Like
Yeah.
Right.
that's the idea that we got from it. And so everyone, or she just thought, he was blowing smoke up her ass, but it doesn't. That's the only thing I can relate this to. Like maybe this is just a sign of what's to come,
Yeah.
because he wasn't lying. I mean, that doesn't support what he was doing. He was obviously a terrible person and leader. Doesn't need to be in charge, but he also was telling the truth that something worse is coming. And so I'm wondering if this might be, alluding to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, obviously the mist is super interesting and important to whatever else is going on besides the political intrigue that's happening with the empire that Elend's trying to build. And I think it's interesting to see that, like, obviously it manifests itself as a person in front of her at one point in time. It's another character that Vin interacts with, and her relationship to it is changing also.
Yeah.
Kind of in the same way that its behavior seems to be changing. And so, yeah, I think not only is it like symbolic of something, it's like obviously gonna become something else at some point.
Well, and I mean, it's tied to the magic system, obviously. Like, I
Right,
mean, I
yeah.
know elemancy like has to do with metals, but like it's tied to it in a way where I think that it's going to hopefully explain how the Mistborn
Mhm.
were created. Because obviously
Right.
Mistborn, right? I mean, I had talked about it in the first book, but it didn't really go into
Right.
detail.
Yeah. And we never
Yeah.
get an explanation of like why they are even called Mistborn.
Yeah.
And the people who only have one ability are called Mistings. So
Right.
it's all tied to the mist somehow, right?
Right. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking for sure. And then the fact that some are more powerful than others, like, you know,
Mhm.
obviously the way Kelsier was created as a Mistborn, the way the Inquisitors are created as Mistborns, and then the way Vin was created as a Mistborn, I think are all three different ways.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
I didn't even think about that.
So
That is a good point.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how the mist plays into that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. Interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
Love
Well,
stuff.
my turn, I suppose. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is something that I've already talked about, is just the idea of having to build an empire after you beat the Lord Ruler.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's a mess. It's messy, like you were saying. But I want to extend that a little bit further, is because what I think is really well written here is that what they're experiencing in Luthadel, you can see echoed in Sazed's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's journeying across to like other villages and stuff like that, because even the people ask, you know, like, why did the Lord Ruler abandon us? Like, why did he leave us? And so he's dealing with the ripple effects, and he's seeing exactly what's going on in Luthadel. I thought that was really cool to see, and it was very subtle. It wasn't even hit on very extensively, but I thought that was interesting. What do y'all make of it?
So I have more on that when I get to my character development or my impactful moments, because Sazed and Vin together are kind of like my two character people that have to do with like this whole loss of the Lord Ruler.
Okay.
But what I do like about what you mentioned was like the building of the empire, like what Elend has
Mhm.
having to go through, you know. He's trying to be this like, I don't want to use the word naive, but a little naive, and trying to build a fair government, right? And it's just really interesting the way he's going about it, because Vin is like, you're the king, you can tell him whatever you want to do. You just make him do it. And he's like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, that's what we just got rid of.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So that's been very interesting, with seeing them to interact with the way they want to run this empire, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And he's also going through a little bit of the same kind of, I guess, crisis that Vin is with what was it all for?
Yeah.
And almost feeling like they still don't have a place in this world. So it's interesting to see the parallels between those two characters. But yeah, like the whole idea of, you know, we're just going to get rid of the big bad and then everything's going to be great. Obviously, it doesn't work out that way. And the hard part comes after you defeated the big bad, you know?
Well, and I'm also wondering, you know, Kelsier, like, he had this whole thought out plan on how to get rid of the Lord Ruler, but but failed to mention what should happen after, you know?
You know what's so funny is that he seemed to always be the visionary of everything, and he
Right.
always knew that his plan would succeed, and it did, you know? And
Right.
he even like planned even further than he had actually shared with his crew. But it stopped at the Lord Ruler is dead. He didn't seem to really plan beyond that. And y'all remember in the first books, he like kind of gave everybody a role except for Vin, and she was upset about that for a bit.
Yeah.
But it's funny to think, if Kelsier dying wasn't a part of his plan, if he had been, the emperor after the Lord Ruler, what would he have done? Like, I think he honestly
That's a
probably just
great
planned for
question.
everybody to figure it out on their own. And he felt like he had the people in place like that could figure it out. And he was just like, here you go.
Well,
I'm giving you the empire now.
there was like a
You
tiny
know?
mention where Elend, and I think Ethan, you talk about Ellen later in your character moments, but there was a tiny moment where Ellen questioned, if Kelsier were here, would I still be king?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Yeah, no.
interesting. That was an interesting
No,
thought. I was
obviously.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, probably not.
No, he definitely wouldn't have been. I think he would still be alive just because of Vin,
Right.
but definitely not king. And I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people, had Kelsier survived, I think a lot of people probably would have looked to Kelsier
Right.
to lead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
If that would have been the case, I don't know if he would have been much better over
Right.
time than the Lord Ruler, like, because he would have
Right.
taken it in the extreme opposite and would have
Hmm.
declared, no, you're going to do what I'm going to do just because it's what the Lord Ruler didn't do. And
Right.
this is what it is now.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why he didn't plan to live,
Hmm.
because he
He
probably knew
probably
he
knew
would
that.
become that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
At least
and
have a
I was
succession
gonna
plan.
say, like, he's kind of like the complete opposite, the like exact opposite of the Lord Ruler, where he hated the nobles, and it brought up so much how much he
Yeah.
hated the nobles
Yeah.
that he probably would have just swung the pendulum in the other direction. Because again, remember, he put the foundation down for essentially this new religion to crop up after his death, where he's the survivor. And so people would have looked up to him as this deity, kind of like the Lord Ruler. But he
Right.
probably would have just like flipped the tables on the nobles. And honestly, you would end up with the same kind of system, if
Right.
it had been him. So interesting to think about.
Right. Well, I mentioned Sazed earlier, and so I'm going to continue about him. But this whole metal plate thing that he finds in the conventicle of Saran, I was like, ooh, I love a good like archaeological find
Yeah.
here. And he was like doing the rub down of the plate because Marshall's like, no, we gotta hurry because
Hmm.
the people could be back here any second. So let's go ahead and go on. First of all, I just want to talk about how the setting of this scene made me feel, because it made me feel very much like when Gandalf and Radagast in The Hobbit are going towards Sauron and the Black Castle. And like everything was eerie, everything was quiet, no one was there, but you could tell something was
Something's
off.
up. Yeah.
Something is there, like we just don't know what it is. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting like goosebumps reading this. Like, okay,
Yeah.
let me continue. But then we get to the metal plate, and it's Elendi. We're getting more mention of him. We're obviously in like the epigraphs of the each chapter we get mention of that name as well. But this is what I was like, is this what the Lord Ruler was referring to when I was talking about him earlier, when he was like, no, don't kill me. If you do, like something even worse is going to take my place. Like, so what do you think? Are these tied? Because I don't know what to think. Are these tied together? I'm leaning towards this is tied. Like this is the tie, but I don't know. What do y'all think?
I mean, there was one, oh crap, I wish I had my book with me. There was
Hmm.
one small epigraph where I think it was like part of the early chapters where it said, I cannot allow him to succeed, or something like that. Or
Hmm.
I cannot allow him to rise to that power, or something. I don't know. It was like along those lines where they were talking about Alendi. So maybe it is like, maybe this is where we finally get that history of like what came before, the Lord Ruler. Like, what did he supposedly defeat, to become the Lord Ruler? And so, yeah, I think they are connected.
Yeah.
Because also in one of the
Well,
epigraphs we get what the reference to like the
The hu-
deepness. Is that what they call
the
it?
deepness. Yeah.
That was in
Yeah,
the first book. I haven't seen it come up again. They keep talking about
I've
the
seen
Well
it
of
in this
Ascension in
one.
this one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it's just been once, I
There,
think.
there's like one mention of it, but there was a few mentions in the logbook
Yeah.
from the first book.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's whatever happened before the Lord Ruler's reign. The deepness apparently was something going on So, all we can assume is probably, I guess the deepness might come back because the Lord Ruler's gone, but like, why is that? And then like, yeah, I like what you mentioned, Ethan, about this kind of like impending feeling of them approaching this building. And then they get there and it's completely empty. And Sazed is
Empty.
like talking about how vast it is. And it's built as almost like a fortress to like hold a bunch of people. And there's like no one left. And then when they get to the deepest part of this fortress, there's just this pile of bodies that he thinks was probably the servants.
And they were all slaughtered.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed how weird Marsh has been acting. Obviously,
Yes.
he's weird ever since he became an Inquisitor.
Yeah.
But he just showed up. Like, first of all, how did he find Sazed? Because he's been traveling across the empire to teach people their religions, but he found Sazed somehow and just showed up unannounced. And then he told him, we need to go to the conventicle of Saran because it's empty. And Sazed asked him several times, how do you know? How do you know? Why do you think that is? And he's like, I just know. He's not giving him any answers.
He's being super sus for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
very
then
much so.
while they were there, all of a sudden, like they're exploring, they're taking a look, and like Zed is trying to record things for his history and knowledge. And then at the end, when he gets to the plate and he wants to write it down, Marsh was like, no, we gotta go right now. So yeah, something's up with Marsh.
Marsh and the Missing Inquisitors was definitely one of those points that I wanted to talk about, but because it only got mentioned very little at the end, I wanted to wait off to see what what later chapters bring, because I feel like that's going to be a point later. So it's like, okay,
for sure.
that got revealed at the end of chapter 12, but I want more before I can talk on it. So it's like that's going to be a future probably point to bring up, at least for me, because I was like,
no, totally agree. All right, so that was my second point, and then my third point: hello, alloy of aluminum.
Yep.
What do we call it again?
Duralium.
Yeah, it starts with a D. That's all I remember.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Let's go with
something
70s.
like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember because
might be wrong.
Yeah, I finished our chapters for this one a little while back, so I need to remember how to say it. But that's super cool. So what I'm wanting to do is for like our next episode, give I guess Allomancy 201, because we did Allomancy 101 for the Final Empire. And so on our next episode, we're going to do Allomancy 201 or 102, whatever you want to say. But talking about just the matchups between the metals and their alloys and what each effect has.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum, we learned, was not on anyone's radar except for the Inquisitors last book. So they're the only ones that knew about it. But aluminum can strip you of any metals that you currently have in your system at that moment when you ingest it. So it leaves you powerless. The alloy of aluminum, however, when you burn it, we learned that Van had a couple of false starts trying this, and she's been sick a couple of times because when you burn something that's not meant to be burnt, it can make you sick. And so she's tried that a couple of times and she's gotten sick, but this time it worked. And what we learn is that it enhances a great deal any other metals that you're currently burning with it. And so she learns that the hard way, unfortunately, when she's having an interaction with the Watcher, and she's like, I'm just going to burn it and see, what happens. I need it right now. And it affects because she was burning tin, right? That enhances your senses, and it put all of her senses on overload.
Yeah.
Right.
And so she was like in mid jump, and then she falls down to the ground because like all of her, like her hearing is going on, like the sight and everything like that. And so it just forced her to the ground. But she learned real quick on what it did, but it enhances it, but it also uses it up in like extremely fast, immediate, almost instantaneously. And once it does, you no longer have that metal to burn because it used it all up. So while it's incredibly useful, you have to be very strategic on when you use it. And so I thought that was so cool. I was like, yes, this is the leveling up that I was referring to with Vin, because she certainly leveled up.
Well, and the fact that she like went from barely finding out about its effects to using it to save Breeze,
Yeah.
That
So cool.
That
was
was really
a
cool.
badass fucking moment
Yeah.
whenever Ellen was like, well, you can't jump that far, and she like
Yeah.
turned to him and smiled and then jumped. I was like,
Yeah. And did it.
Watch me.
She was like, hold my beer.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
And the
That's
fact
pretty
that she
cool.
like figured it out super quick, like, okay, I gotta burn this and this and that, and like it like gave her the super strength. And so that made me think like maybe she is going to be, obviously we all know she's super powerful, but she's going to be key in defeating these armies.
Mm.
She took out a bunch of the people that were after, I think like a dozen men were after Breeze, and she took them all
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
like an instant.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then
Yeah,
like
it was-
before that scene, there was those 8 assassins that all came after her, and she took them all down too.
Mhm.
yeah, but she didn't take
Yeah.
them down with this new
No.
alloy or whatever. I was talking about like now that she has like this new
Yeah.
power.
I'm just making the point that like she's
powerful.
a force to be reckoned with. So
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. No,
Like-
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, she's doing really well for herself.
Yeah.
And I love watching it. She thrives being in
Mhm.
MISTBORN. It's like once she figured out
Yeah.
she was MISTBORN, everything else clicked and fell into place
Just
for her.
clicked.
Yeah.
Because like she's like Yoda. Like she's going to be
Mhm.
Yoda at some point because
Yeah.
she's going to nail it. Like this is
Yeah.
her. This is who she was meant to be. And it's exciting to read because you can even see it like as it's happening in real time. She's like, now I'm gonna have to carry more vials to
Yeah.
be able to more vials
Yeah.
of metals so that way I can plan and strategize accordingly
Yeah.
once I
Mhm.
use this alloy. Like it's so cool.
Yeah.
Well done,
Yeah.
Ben.
And
Yeah.
that's the one part of her identity that she's not struggling with.
True. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. She's
She's
a
making it her
natural
whole
at being a
personality.
MISTBORN.
Yeah.
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 All right. All right, so those were our 3 character moments. Since you've read this whole series, Steph, do you have anything else to add before we go into our 2 character moments? 2 character
No,
beats?
like I said, I just want to react to your guys' points because I don't want to say too much.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. 2 character moments. Go.
Okay. So mine both go together as far as like the meaning behind each character moment. So my 2 are Sazed and Vin as Lady Air. So the first one is Sazed. So his role as a keeper is interesting and what that's going to mean for as the crew like tries to rebuild this new empire, right? So one of the things that he was thinking to himself was in chapter 4, and this really, really stood out to me. And I think this is going to have an impact on the rest of the series. And this is what he said. Or this is what he thought. He said, the keepers spent 1,000 years gathering and memorizing the dying religions of the world. Who would have thought that now, with the Lord Ruler gone, people wouldn't care enough to want what they'd lost, which really ties into my character moment with Vin and what's going on in like her side of the town where, you know, everybody's calling her Lady Air because she like apparently inherited, or she's apparently Kelsier's heir, and, you know, he was the survivor. So in chapter 5, you know, she's walking through the city and then there are like some people, some priests there, and they're all calling her Lady Air, and she's like, please don't call me that. And so they were saying to her, please, we need direction. We have cast off the Lord Ruler. What do we do now? And then Vin thought to herself, the problem was Kelsier had left his followers with no doctrine, but now what? These people must feel as she did, set adrift with no light to guide them. And then the people said, you'll protect us, won't you, Lady Air? The priests say that you'll stop that army out there, that its soldiers won't be able to enter the city while you're here. And so on the one side, you have people who don't care and don't want to learn about religion. And then on the other side, you have people who are lost and need direction. And so I was just like, those 2 moments were super interesting. And it's obviously going to set the tone for the rest of the series as far as like how you're rebuilding this empire. What religion are we going to build it under? Because like these people, some of these people are like aching to have something to follow after what happened. So it's like the Lord Ruler is gone. Now what?
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, the people that Sazed is interacting with, I think, are going through the same crisis because he's trying to present them with a religion that they have no knowledge of. But they're hanging on to the religion that they're used to, which was the Lord Ruler as our deity. And so they still want that kind of direction, but they don't want the direction Sazed's giving them, you know? So yeah, it's impacting the entire empire, as you can see.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking now that he's finally returning back to Luthadel, like he's gonna have more impact on those people as the keeper. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that he's gonna have a positive impact and he's gonna give these people
Mhm.
more direction, you know?
Yeah. And a little bit of his personal, like internal struggle that he's going through also is, he mentioned a couple times that he has always been kind of like a rebel of the Terrorismen. And they didn't really necessarily agree with his involvement in taking down the final empire. But
True.
it ultimately led to, taking down the Lord Ruler that was oppressing them horribly beforehand, and that has now allowed them to do what their purpose has always been, which was to spread their history and religion that they've been keeping all this time. So now they're able
Yep.
to do that, but he still feels like an outcast in his own, I guess, group of people.
Yeah.
Well, I think that segues perfectly into me because my first person that I was going to talk about was Sazed. And specifically what we've already been talking about, like his internal struggle, like now his almost identity crisis, right? Because we get this cool, calm, and collected Sazed in book 1, where he's the sage advice person, right? Like the people that come
Yeah.
that our core group comes to for advice, for solace, for, just someone to look to. And he always has the right thing to say. But now that we're getting more of his internal speech and dialogue, like what he's dealing with himself, like, oh, he's insecure too. Like, oh my gosh. Like,
Yeah.
like he battles, like we all do.
Right.
And he had purpose before in book 1, and it feels like he's losing his purpose here because he's going to these villages, he's doing what he thinks he's supposed to be doing, but like you said, Steph, they're not wanting it, they're not buying. And it goes back to the quote that you said, Jen, about, where was it? The keepers spend 1,000 years gathering and memorizing the dying religions of the world. Who would have thought that now, with the Lord Ruler gone, people wouldn't care enough to want what they'd lost? And he was thinking that. I was like, oh my gosh, he's feeling disheartened, which isn't
Yeah.
a real feeling that I really associate with Sazed, because he was so cool, calm, and collected in the first one.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
we're getting this. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is great character building. Like I
Yeah.
love this, that we're getting this side of him. And he needed Marsh, even though Marsh is looking sus right now. He needed Marsh to give him like a kick in the pants to become purposeful again.
Yeah.
And so now we've gone to the conventicle of Saran, and now he has a new job because Marsh tells him, he was like, even after we're done here, you're gonna go back to Luthadel. Like there's no question about it. You're gonna go back.
Yeah.
He just like gives him all these like, nope, this is what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think Sazed was still feeling pulled to that, but he needed like
Somebody
permission,
to tell him.
or maybe not
Yeah.
permission, but like a reason,
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So it's all of that, like it was just really interesting to read. And we don't get a lot of Sazed's chapters in this portion yet, but I'm looking forward to more because he was one of my favorite characters in the Final Empire. He continues to be here strongly with just these few chapters that we've gotten from him. So I can't wait to see more.
Yeah. It's so good,
And
y'all.
then it's so good.
It's
and then
so
my
good.
second person here is Elend. I do not envy his position.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He has the know-how of what it takes to make an empire run. However, he's not like quote unquote hard enough. Like he has been coddled, if not by his father, because his father would not coddle him.
No.
Like he's not a warm person, he's not a great person.
No.
If he wasn't coddled by him, he was definitely coddled by his station in life and his privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so because of that, he has a lot to learn. But reading what's happening to the Empire through his story, I think it will be really great to read that process and see how it unfolds. Even though it might not end happily.
Yeah.
Or it might not be happy at times. It's going to be a hard-fought battle that we'll see. But I'm very intrigued to read interested to see what might happen. What do you think?
I'm just loving I love Ellen, first of all, but I'm loving the interactions going on between Ven, like what's going on in her mind when she's watching him be this person. And she was just like, again, going back to what I said earlier, is like, you're the king. You can tell him whatever you want. He's like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do
Not
here.
really.
And it was funny that she was like observing him giving his speech to the assembly, right? And when she noticed that one guy who had more power, and he was like the one that convinced everyone to accept the proposal, and Vin goes, huh, this guy has power. That's not good. We need to do something about this.
Yeah,
Just laughing in my head
yeah,
because she just loves Elend so much and she just
I
wants what's
know.
best for him. And
Yeah,
she's looking at all the weak spots of his rule, right? She's like, we got to get rid
yeah,
of this guy. He has too much
yeah,
power.
yeah. I think it's so sweet that like there was one interaction between them, I forget what chapter it was, where he was preparing for his speech to the assembly and she told him like, I don't even know why you need to do that again, because she says he's king, you can just tell him.
Yeah.
And then he like tries to explain to her like, how would that make me any different from the Lord ruler? And she tells him, well, he was an evil man and you're a good man, so
Yeah.
that's the difference. But to your point, Ethan, just because Elend is a good person, just because he has studied politics and he's actually like done a lot of thinking behind like what would make a better system for not just, you know, the ska, but also for everybody involved in this empire. Just because he knows what to do, it doesn't make him a good leader. And we're seeing that play out, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. That's a great way to put it. All right. So 2 character moments we have here. That was our 3, that was our 2, and now we're going to our 1. 1 prediction we have going forward with the knowledge that we have so far. So, Jen, kick us off.
Okay. So, I have 1 prediction and 1 theory. Okay.
Cheetah. No, that's all right.
Hey,
We all
you
do
guys
it.
have done this before, so.
We do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my prediction is that I think Ellen's father has a stash of adium that everybody's been searching for. So, like,
Yeah.
I think
Ooh.
that's kind of an obvious, but like, it hasn't been brought up by anybody that they think that. I think when he fled, he took off with it because I think that we
Mm.
had talked about that when we finished our read on the Final Empire. And I
Mhm.
think that we even said that, you know, that I think that Straff is the one that took off with the adium. But it makes sense as to why he's so confident that Elend will easily turn the city over to him. Because I mean,
Mm.
I would be confident if I knew I had that huge stash of adium. Because like that is what's fueling the economy in Luthadel. And because they
Mhm.
don't have any, they're struggling really hard right now. So
Right.
my prediction is that I think Ellen's father has it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my theory is that I think the Watcher is somehow connected to Elendi, the hero of ages, that is talked about in the epigraphs, and that I think he's been following and watching Ven because he wants to recruit her. Like she's
Mm.
powerful, and I think he knows that. I think he was testing her when he went to go hide. Like I think he was testing to see
Yeah.
if she could pierce his copper cloud, and she did, but she didn't let him know
Mhm.
that she did. So I think he was
Right.
purposely testing her, and he's been testing her because I think maybe he wants to recruit her. I don't think he's
Mm.
an enemy. He says he's an enemy, but I don't think he is because if he wanted to hurt Ven, he would have done so already. So I don't think that's what he's after. So I
Right,
think
because
that
he
there's a
helped her with
connection.
those assassins.
Yeah. So I think there's some kind of connection with him because he's so freaking mysterious. And now all of a sudden the epigraphs are about this hero of ages. Like there has to be like some connection there. So that's my theory going forward. So I'm going to be looking more at those epigraphs and more on what the Watcher is doing to see if there is that connection.
Yeah, I don't know about the full-on connection because I hadn't thought about it yet, but I like that theory. I can definitely see the worthiness trick coming into play here because even the questions he was asking her when they did confront each other, the second question he asked, like, why do you play their games?
Yeah.
And she
Right.
was like, because she mentioned love, and it almost felt like he dismissed her after that, and then
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
left.
Like, yeah.
And so like that's not what I was looking for, but bye. Like
Yeah.
and
Right.
so I'm wondering if it might take a little time before they meet again because of that.
Mhm.
So that would be interesting. So my theory slash prediction, I was wondering, I was like, should I play it safe? Because we don't have too much information to go off of here. I was
Yeah.
like, should I be bold and just make a claim? So the chapter we left things on, chapter 12, heavily hints to the fact that there is a second Khandra out there. We know that now because they found remains and bones of someone else in Vin's closet, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there is a second conjure out there, and it hints heavily to the fact that it's someone in their core group.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the case, which it probably is, because I don't feel like Brandon Sanderson's really subtle when it comes to those types of things, I'm going to be heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to lean into who it might be at this point, I'm thinking Spook, just because he's vastly different from where we first met him, you know?
So
Yeah.
I was definitely between wanting to make a prediction about who I thought the spy was, or between making the connection with the Watcher. And I'm like, which one do I go with? But originally, whenever I read that chapter and she was naming off all the people who weren't seen, right? I thought Spook too. Like that was my initial thought too. I'm like, okay, Spook. Like he's like the outlier of the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is going to be one thing I'm going to be looking for as I'm reading as well, is like how
Who's
they
the rat?
interact. Yeah, like how they're interacting with Elend and Ven. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel for them because like Ven was already paranoid as is. Now she's going to be
Yeah.
even more.
Even more so. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. My other thought was Dachshund, because we haven't gotten much of him yet.
Who were the ones she named? She said Spook, Dachshund, and was it Ham that hadn't showed up yet? Yeah.
And Breeze.
Yeah, like who knows? Well, she brought him into the city, so
True.
I feel like that would be like an iffy theory for it to be Breeze.
Because Clubs was with her. Clubs and Elend were together with her. So yeah, she brought up Ham, Dachshund, and Spook. So yeah, it has to be some, yeah. So my initial thought was Spook as well, Ethan. So we'll see if we were right.
And his behavior is different from book 1.
His behavior is very different, and the conjurer could be very convenient, saying, "Well, it's just because I've been away. I've been learning the dialects of other people, you know."
So if he hasn't been in the city for a while,
if Spook stops crushing on Ben, then that's how we know it was him.
That's the tell.
Yeah. I mean, he still crushes over her. Like Elend picked up on the jealousy that he was like, showing whenever he put his arm around Ben.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I pick up these little romance things. Huh?
You do, but don't they maintain some of the person that they just ingested? Like don't they retain some of their like memories and feelings?
Well, they try to imitate them.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, so that was something that Vin mentioned while she was thinking about like who it could be, that it was going to be difficult to try to figure it out because the Khandra, I mean, that's what they do. They like imitate the person that they ingest.
So that was our 3, 2, 1. And now, like I said, we're going to end every episode in this series with the big question. We're going to each take a turn sitting in the hot seat answering this question. Doesn't have to be anything elaborate. We can just keep it at a 1-sentence answer if we want to, or a 1-word answer. But here's the question. What's more dangerous right now? Elend's inexperience or the system that he inherited?
That's a good one.
I love Elend, but I think his inexperience is pretty dangerous right now. And I only say that because he's so young and the only experience he has is through his books. And I think that, Ethan, you and I know as educators that no matter how many times you read about some kind of incident, it's never going to compare to what you actually have to do in the classroom or what you actually have to do in the school. And I know that's like a small comparison to what I'm talking about here, but like it doesn't compare. You can read as much as you want about an experience, but if you're not living it and you're not going through the kinks itself, like you're not going to learn. And he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he has really great intentions and I love him for it. And I love what he's trying to do, but he doesn't have that many people supporting him right now because of his inexperience. So I think that's really dangerous.
What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah.
If we're going like right now where we are in the story, I would have to agree. Elend's inexperience is just it's reckless, it's not reckless. Like he had a plan.
Mm-hmm.
He has a plan trying to go forward. He's trying to, put band-aids on holes in a boat that keep on springing up and new leaks keep on pouring through in the boat. Like that's what he's trying to do. And so I feel like he can't gain traction to show any kind of leadership skill off that he might have, but it's probably doing him a service in that respect because I don't think he would have any leadership skills to show off.
Yeah.
So having to learn and earn his stripes this way is probably serving him well, even though it might be painful for him to
Yeah.
experience. But no, I think his inexperience right now is the more dangerous thing because the system he inherited, as evil and as oppressive as it was stable.
Yeah.
It was stable, and it makes me feel gross to say.
I know.
But it technically worked.
I mean, he even said it himself,
He did say it himself.
that
Yeah.
it was stable for
Yeah.
1,000 years. Okay, I'm going to be the odd man because I think the system he inherited is more dangerous right now because we're already seeing it happen. There are several people trying to like take the empire from him at this point. And, like they already have a tentative hold on this empire. So I think even a great leader could easily lose grip right now.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a little bit of both, but if I had to pick one, I gave my answer.
Yeah, fair.
All right, book friends. Well, we want to know what you think, and we're going to create a poll and put it on our YouTube channel. Vote in our poll, comment with your choice. What do you think? Elend's inexperience or just this crappy situation he's inherited? What do you think? So let us know.
All right, book friends, that was the end of our first deep dive on The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. Let's keep the discussion going. We are Books Between Freds Pod on all platforms. Thank you so much for interacting with us already. We are looking forward to chatting with you all about this book. Please let us know what you think about Ben, what you think about Elend, their inner circle, and just no spoilers, please. But we would love to see what you think.
All right, you guys. So for our next episode, the stakes skyrocket, power struggles intensify, trust becomes a liability, and Vin starts to realize the most dangerous battles in Luthadel might not be fought with allomancy at all. Be sure to tune in next week. You won't want to miss this one.